This is the 311th Taiku in the Babylonian Talmud, tractate Niddah 22b. And the countdown is on. These are the last few Taikus of this project. And as I mentioned in the recent times, it feels kind of like, for those who have graduated high school, and you can kind of that's how I relate to it. It's kind of like the last few weeks of you're in 12th grade and the graduation's coming up and the weather's nice outside and you're kind of reflecting back on all of your years of elementary and high school, and you're about to enter a new chapter, and that's what it feels like right now. Because I've been spending almost a year with these Taikus, one per day, over the past 311 days, and it's soon approaching 317 is the total. So this is the last week, and this is the 311th Taiku in the Babylonian Talmud according to the book by Rabbi Aharon Yehoshua Pessin. It's according to the book. It's in tractate Niddah, page 22b. And I want to make a sort of a disclaimer, just a warning. In the tractate of Niddah, as I mentioned when we started this, the Taikus of Niddah. Niddah deals with topics of a woman and her monthly cycle and related things. And so some of the topics can be a little bit, I guess, not for everybody, maybe a little cringy, maybe. So, with that being said, and also I like to state that whatever opinions are stated here in the Talmud do not necessarily reflect my own opinion. A lot of years have gone by since then, and a lot has changed, and psychology and just the humanity in general, and just so many things have affected the world. Just a thought that came to mind is AI, for example. You talk about not just the Talmud, but even much later, many of the rabbis who formed the classical Jewish thought, whether it was Rishonim, Achronim, it's the Tanaim, Amoraim, and Gaonim. There was Savaroim. That's a very small segment of time, but it was another group. That's kind of the overlap between the Amoraim and Gaonim. Gaonim met the Rishonim at around the year 1000, around that mark, and in the early medieval period, and then Rishonim throughout the medieval period with Rashi, Ramban, and then the Achronim. I'm not sure the exact cutoff point, but it's probably I would guess to say around 1600s, and then the Achronim. But all of them, not one of them, lived on a world that has AI like we have today. AI is a total game changer. It brings a whole new consciousness to the world and stuff, and it brings new information and new ways of receiving information that none of these rabbis were exposed to. They had no idea of it. They never mentioned anything like it. And so we're really entering a new phase, a new era, a new chapter of humanity. So with that being said, because of that, that's just one thing. AI is one thing, but then various world wars and many other things that affected the consciousness of the world. So an opinion of a rabbi in the Talmud time may have been really advanced at that time, but today it just doesn't. It won't even not even applicable sometimes. And sometimes there is some great wisdom as well. But anyway, that being said, when I read these opinions, although they may be offensive to some, and I can see how they would be, just bear in mind they don't reflect my own opinion, but they do. I made a commitment to do this thing in its entirety, so I have to read everything if I want that to be done. So with that being said, let's go forward. Niddah 22b, Amaresh Lakish. Amaresh Lakish, Meforshin, Tanya Namihachi, Katil, למים מפרשים רבי שמעון בן גמליאל אומר, ממחתו ברог על גבי ציפוריהן, ממאי ביניהו, אמר רבינה מעוך על ידי הדחק יגבניהו. Rish Lakish says, and this examination is conducted with lukewarm water. This is also taught in a Braita. The woman should cast the item into water, this examination is conducted in only lukewarm water. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says the woman mashes the item with saliva using the fingers of one hand on a fingernail of her other hand. The Gemara asks, what is the difference between the two opinions? Ravina says the difference between them is whether an item is considered blood, if it can be mashed by pressing on it, or if the item dissolves by itself. Hasam tanan kama hi sheriasim b'faroshin me'es le'es hachamai mi ba'ina me'es le'es olo. We learned in the Mishnah there, 54b, with regard to an animal carcass or the carcass of a creeping animal that dried up, which is examined by soaking it in water to determine whether or not it still imparts impurity. For how long is its soaking in lukewarm water necessary? It is for a 24-hour period. The Gemara asks here, with regard to the examination of an item discharged by a woman, what is the halacha? Do I need it to be soaked in lukewarm water for a 24-hour period or not? Taiku. The Gemara explains the question, perhaps with regard to a carcass of a creeping animal and an unslaughtered animal carcass, which are hard when they dry up, we require soaking for a 24-hour period, but blood, which is relatively soft after it dries up, does not need to be soaked for that long. In other words, if the item did not dissolve after even a shorter period of time, it is not blood, or perhaps the examination of a discharged item is no different, and it also must be soaked for 24 hours. The Gemara concludes, Taiku. The dilemma shall stand unresolved until the coming of Messiah, the son of David and the son of Joseph, may be soon in our day, and we look forward to having all of these questions answered, and all of our own personal questions as well.